Okay, students, today we're going to start with the next chapter. That is, we're not afraid to die if we can all be together. As we have discussed yesterday, right, for the spirit of adventure, there are many qualities that people have, which give them the strength to go on such daring adventures, and they undertake such daring tasks that they become an example for others, right? So many people, they try to copy in their footsteps. So we had a first person to scale Mount Everest, the first person to go to Antarctica. And after that, yes, there are many, they get that courage, they get that motivation that if he can, why not me? This chapter is also a tale of motivation. It's about paying a tribute once again, yes, to someone who had the courage to sail around the world. This happened many, many years ago. And now, in honor of that person, what is the author doing? He's going to go on around the world voyage. So he's made a lot of preparations. Naturally, you cannot start out on such an adventurous task without making prior preparations. So he's practiced a lot. He's like, of course, quite competent now in navigating the ship. He knows the controls, he knows things there, the life escaping skills that are required. So he's quite prepared and quite ready to go. And his family is going to accompany him. Because this is a tribute to one of the first person who took the voyage around the world, that is Captain Cook. What did he do? He made a ship that was similar to that. Wave Walker was the name of the ship. It was a wooden vessel, right? Not the modern and the very strong and sturdy, you can say, the vessels of today. So because he wanted to replicate the journey, he wanted to see that what could have been the problems, the dangers that he faced, right? And yes, of course, he has all the modern equipments that he requires in case of an emergency. Yes, all that is there with him. But replicating that voyage and replicating that journey that he took so many years ago. So before we start off, I have shared with you all the parts of the ship. Yes, hope you've taken a look at it. I've also shown you what it feels like to be in the sea, the huge waves rising. So when you talk about sailors, what could be the biggest problem that they face? The weather, the unpredictable weather. Yes, and the huge waves rising will be a big problem for the ship, right? So yes, so keeping this in mind, the author made a lot of preparations, and he started on his voyage. So before I start, yes, just let's remember, or let's just revise, yes, what are the parts of the ship that you have to remember, okay? We have the hull. The hull of the ship is the wooden structure, right? Of what, like, yes, the wooden hull here, the structure of the ship. We have the keel. Keel is the framework on which the whole ship is set. Then you have the mast, right? The mast and the sail, that huge pole on which the main sail is set. And what is the importance of the sail? Yes, what do you think is the importance of the sail in ship? What is the importance? You see in the pictures of all the older ships, and when you were there drawing also. So like, yeah, you drew the sail of a boat. So what do you think is the purpose of the sail? Anyone? What is the purpose of the sail? Yes, it's in navigation, it's in sailing. Yes, the wind there, it helps the, yes, absolutely correct, Harshika. It helps the ship move forward by catching the wind. Yes, so we have the bow of the ship, that is a front part, the part which enters first, right? The stern is the rear of the ship. The rudder, yes, you have that fan thing that keeps on moving, yeah, and of course the anchor. Anchor is there to stop the ship, right? So let's come on to the chapter. So as we continue, I'll keep on explaining the terms to you all. In July 1976, my wife Mary's son Jonathan 6, daughter Suzanne Seven and I set sail from Plymouth, England, to duplicate the round the world voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. So many years, 200 years ago, Captain James Cook had undertaken this round the world voyage. So in honor of him, and yes, so they have decided to replicate. For the longest time, Mary and I, a 37-year-old businessman, had dreamt of sailing in the wake of the famous explorer. And for the past 16 years, we had spent all our leisure time honing our seafaring skills in British waters. So it takes a lot of preparation. And how many years did this couple spend in perfecting their skills? Honing means, yes, so making the skills better. Seafaring skills, the skills that they require on the sea. So making them better, like you're becoming confident. And it took them 16 years to feel confident enough to take that round the world voyage. So when you look about people here, right, who do undertake these very adventurous tasks, they do undergo a lot of preparation. It's not that you just can pack your bags and the next day you say that, okay, bye, I'm going off. No, it takes a lot of preparation. It takes a lot of hard work. Our boat, Wave Walker. So please remember, what was the name of the boat? It was Wave Walker, 23-meter, 30-ton, wooden hulled beauty. So wooden hulled. So hull, as I told you, the structure of the boat had been professionally built, and we had spent months fitting it out and testing it in the roughest weather we could find. Because what could be the biggest danger to the sailor? The rough weather, the high tides, the high waves rising, the strong winds blowing, all this there could be the most dangerous thing. The first leg of a planned 3-year, 105,000-kilometer journey passed pleasantly. So how long are they planning to be on sea? 3 years. So for that 3 years, they have made 16 years of preparation. First leg, the first part. So in various phases, the journey has been planned. The first leg, yes, where did they start from? They started from Plymouth, England. They set sail from there. So all have set sail, yes. So it is the writer, his wife, his daughter, and son, right? So daughter was 7 years old and son 6 years old. So the whole family there on the voyage. As we sailed down the west coast of Africa to Cape Town, there, before heading east, we took on 2 crewmen, American Larry Vigil and Swiss Herb Sigler, to help us tackle one of the world's roughest seas, the Southern Indian Ocean. So they took along with them 2 crewmen to help them, to assist them on the ship. So one was American, another was a Swiss national. So they took these 2 people along with them to help them on the sea, right? And they have set out sail on one of the world's roughest sea. Where have they reached? The Southern Indian Ocean. The first leg has passed peacefully without any problem, right? And now they are on the next, or you can say one of the most difficult part. They are in the Indian Ocean. On our second day out of Cape Town, yes, where's Cape Town? So they've left South Africa, the African continent behind. We began to encounter strong gales. What are gales? Strong winds. For the next few weeks, they blew continuously. So they're not worried about the winds now. Yes, so there will be winds at sea. Gales did not worry me, but the size of the waves was alarming. So the winds blowing, it's okay, no problem. But what was bothering him, that was the waves were rising quite high, up to 15 meters, as high as our main mast. So the main mast, so where the sail is attached, which is there, the most important, the main sail, which is there attached, right? So for the navigation, as you just discussed, as you've told me. So the waves were rising as high as 15 meters. December 25 found us 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. Despite atrocious weather, we had a wonderful holiday complete with a Christmas tree. New Year's Day, so no improvement in the weather, but we reasoned that it had to change soon, and it did change for the worse. So yes, so they've celebrated Christmas on the sea, on the ship, and the weather was very bad, the winds blowing very high, the waves high around them, but they had a nice holiday, they celebrated Christmas, they had a Christmas tree also, right? They thought that, yeah, New Year's Day has also come, and they thought the weather will change a little bit now. The weather did change, not for good, but for worse. At dawn on January 2, the waves were gigantic. We sailing with only a small storm jib and was still making 8 knots. So even then, the waves were huge. They're very huge waves. And it was sailing with only a small storm jib sail, right? So they've lowered the other masts. Why? The sails, so that, yeah, the wind would not trouble them and the ship would not, like be tossed about because of the increasing speed. And they were still making 8 knots, the speed there. Yes, so they were, of course, at quite a high speed themselves because of the winds also blowing. As the ship rose to the top of each wave, we could see endless, enormous seas rolling towards us. So I've shared a video with you all. So have you noticed that how as the ship, it will come to the top of the wave, the crest of the wave, as it reaches, it can see so many waves approaching it. It seems there's so many seas coming all together. And the screaming of the wind and the spray was painful to the ears. To slow the boat down, we dropped the storm jib and lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stern. Then we double lashed everything, went through our raft drill, attached lifelines, donned oilskins and life jackets, and waited. So yes, being the captain of the ship, he is there responsible not only for the safety of his crew and family, also for the ship also. So he has to make sure that if the weather becomes worse, yes, let us reduce the damage as much as we can. So what are the things that they have done? They've lowered the sails. There's only the storm jib, right? They've lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stern. They've made this loop, right? With the rope, yes. So they've tied, like the stern of the ship. What is the stern of the ship? The rear part of the ship. So as to reduce the speed. Then we double lashed, and of course, yes, it should not, drift too much from the direction that they intend to go. Then we double lashed everything, so that things which are there on the deck of the ship, right? So on the top of the ship, that is the deck, yes. So from that, the things, they should not fall away, they should not get detached, not damage should be done. So what have they done? They have double lashed everything, went through our life raft drill. What's the purpose of the life rafts? In case of an emergency, if anything happens to the ship, they have to lower the life rafts and go away on that, so save themselves, right? Attached lifelines. Lifelines, they have attached themselves with the ship so that they are not washed off, they're not thrown off. So if a huge wave comes, they will not be thrown out of the ship. Donned oil skins and life jackets and waited. The first indication of impending disaster came at about 6 p.m. with an ominous silence. Ominous. What's an omen? A sign, the silence, the calm before the storm. So they were waiting, they were prepared that if anything happens, yes. So we've done our emergency, safety. We are prepared, and they waited for the weather maybe to become better. But no, things did not become better. There was this silence at 6 p.m. The wind dropped and the sky immediately grew dark. Then came a growing roar and an enormous cloud towered aft of the ship. With horror, I realized that it was not a cloud, but a wave like no other I had ever seen. It appeared perfectly vertical and almost twice the height of the other waves with a frightful breaking crest. So by evening, there was silence all around. The wind dropped and the sky grew dark. That yes, there's going to be a terrible storm. But to his horror, what did the writer realize? That it was not the storm that had, it was not the dark clouds which had made everything so dark around them. What was it? It was a huge wave. He had never seen a wave like that. So that wave coming and behind the ship, and if that wave broke on the ship, it would cause a lot of damage with a frightful breaking crest. What's the crest? The top of the. And what will happen if that wave crashed on the ship? Yes, what will happen? A lot of damage. Right? So here they were not prepared for such a huge wave coming and crashing on their ship. They were prepared for the storm. They were prepared. Yes, if the wind starts blowing or the, like these storms, they lash in the sides and cause a lot of damage. And if we have to escape an emergency, all these things they had done. But yes, this huge wave just coming and covering the ship. And if this wave, it broke on the ship, it would cause a lot of damage. Okay. Yes. So is this clear up till here? Any doubts, anyone?